Hello, my friend. Welcome to tonight's bedtime story. This is Luna. Tonight, I'll be here with you, gently guiding you toward rest. Right now, you don't need to hold anything together anymore. There's nothing left for you to accomplish. Tonight, all you need to do is listen. To be with you during this quiet moment before sleep, to be a gentle voice beside you, is something calm and deeply comforting. Tonight's story is for children, and just as much for the child who still lives within you. This is a story for anyone, no matter how your day has been, whether your mind feels clear or tired, or simply quiet and present. This is a slow-moving world, a place that doesn't rush forward. Here, rest is not laziness, but something completely natural. Before the story truly begins, we'll take just a few gentle moments to let your breathing slow down and allow your body to find a place of safety. So now, if you're ready, let's begin to relax together. Now, let's begin to relax together. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1. As I do, there's no effort required. Simply allow yourself to let go little by little. 10. Feel the support beneath you. Perhaps it's the bed, the sofa, or whatever is holding you tonight. Truly feel that support. Beneath it all is the deeper support of the earth, steady, quiet, and always there. 9. You are safe. Know that tonight. My voice is simply a friend, a gentle companion, guiding you only toward calm and safe places. 8. Now, gently bring awareness to your body. There's nothing to change, just notice. When you're ready, take a slow breath in, and then slowly breathe out. Once more, in and out. 7. With each exhale, allow your body to soften a little more. In your mind, slowly move through your body, noticing anywhere that may still be holding tension or tiredness. 6. Perhaps your feet, your legs, your belly, your chest, your back, or your shoulders. If you'd like, allow them to relax now. 5. The day is done. Whatever has happened today can be set aside for now. There's nothing to revisit, nothing to plan. This moment is only for rest. 4. If thoughts appear, there's no need to resist them. They are simply thoughts. They come and they go. Watch them drift away like leaves on a moonlit river, or clouds moving slowly across the night sky. 3. This is your moment. This is your time. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. 2. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, no obligations at all. Simply settle here. 1. Allow your imagination to gently open. In your mind, a safe and quiet world begins to appear. a place that is slow and kind. Now, you're ready to drift into tonight's sleep story. The castle stood where the forest gradually learned how to be quiet. It was not hidden by magic, nor protected by walls meant to keep people away. It simply existed at a distance from everything else, far enough that the world did not brush against it by accident. The paths that once led there had softened with time, their edges blurred by fallen leaves, their direction slowly forgotten. Most people never noticed when they passed nearby. The forest seemed ordinary from the outside. Only those who lingered felt it, the way sound thinned, the way movement slowed, as if the air itself asked for gentleness. Night arrived early in this place, not suddenly, but patiently, like something that had no reason to hurry. Colors drained from the trees one by one, shadows lengthened without drama. The forest did not resist the dark, it welcomed it. Inside the castle, a single light remained on. It did not shine brightly through the windows. It did not search for attention. It stayed exactly as it was, steady and contained, offering just enough presence to remind the night that someone was there. The beast preferred the hours after sunset. Daylight revealed too much. It carried expectations with it, questions without voices, judgments that did not need words to exist. In daylight, the world seemed to ask him to be something other than what he was. Night asked nothing. At night, he could move through the castle without feeling observed, without needing to explain his shape, his silence, or the choices that had led him here. He walked the corridor slowly, his steps heavy but measured. The stone floors were cool beneath him, smoothed by centuries of passing feet. They accepted his weight without hesitation. They did not recoil from his presence. The castle had learned him over time. High ceilings held the echoes of old evenings, not loud enough to intrude, only present enough to be felt. Tapestries hung quietly along the walls, their stories faded into patterns and color. Furniture remained untouched, not arranged for comfort or beauty, but left exactly where habit had placed it. The beast lit candles as he passed, one flame, then another. Each one pushed the darkness back only a small distance, as if respecting it. He did not want the shadows gone. He only wanted to see where he was going. The windows reflected his outline faintly, broad shoulders, still posture, a shape that no longer surprised him. He did not turn away, but he did not linger either. There was nothing new to discover in seeing himself clearly. Outside, the forest continued its quiet work. Branches shifted softly. Leaves murmured among themselves. Somewhere an owl adjusted its wings, settling more comfortably into the dark. These sounds did not make him feel alone. They reminded him that life did not require participation to continue meaningfully. He entered the great hall, where a low fire rested in the hearth. It did not crackle loudly. It glowed. The beast sat near it, allowing the warmth to reach him gradually. Here, time lost its sharp edges. Minutes did not press forward. Nothing waited to be completed. There had been a time when this castle was full of movement. Voices had filled the rooms, overlapping and colliding. Laughter had traveled up staircases and into open doorways. Even silence had once been shared. Those memories no longer demanded attention. They had softened into something distant, like weather remembered rather than felt. The beast had learned, slowly, that not every absence needed explanation. Some things simply ended, leaving behind a quieter shape of life. He rose and walked toward the highest window. From there, the forest stretched outward, dark and calm. The moon rested low above the trees, thin and pale, content to observe without involvement. He did not wish for it to change. He did not wish for himself to change. There was safety in routine, in repetition, in evenings that required nothing more than presence. The beast did not think of himself as someone waiting for rescue or transformation. He did not imagine a future that looked different from this one. The castle stood. The night arrived. He remained. The wind brushed the stone walls gently, then moved on without pause. Inside, the candles continued to burn, small and patient. The castle, like its solitary resident, had learned how to breathe in the dark, slowly, evenly, without expectation. And for now, that was enough. Change did not arrive with sound. There was no sudden interruption to the night, no sharp moment that demanded attention. If anything, the change arrived so gently that it almost went unnoticed. The forest sensed it first, a subtle disturbance in the familiar stillness, branches parting where they rarely did, footsteps placed carefully, as though whoever moved there did not wish to be seen. Inside the castle, the beast did not react immediately. He continued his routine, unaware that something new had entered the quiet he knew so well. The candles burned as they always had. The fire remained low and patient. It was only when a door shifted slightly, not opened fully, just enough to let in a breath of cooler air, that he paused. The sound was small, easily missed. He turned slowly, not with alarm, but with attention. Someone was there, not moving quickly, not hiding, simply present. She stood near the entrance, hands relaxed at her sides, eyes adjusting to the dim light. Her posture carried no urgency, no demand. She had not come to conquer the space. She had entered it carefully, as one might step into a room already occupied by silence. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The beast did not step forward. She did not retreat. The air between them remained calm. She was not fearless. Fear existed quietly within her, contained, acknowledged, but not allowed to take control. Her breath stayed steady. Her gaze did not search for escape. She looked around the hall slowly, noticing the way light rested on stone, the stillness of the furniture, the absence of clutter. This place did not feel dangerous. It felt paused. The beast observed her from a distance. He did not attempt to explain himself. He did not lower his head or raise his voice. He had learned that explanations often created more distance than silence ever did. Eventually, he stepped aside slightly, a small gesture, almost unintentional, an invitation without words. She understood it that way. She moved forward just enough to step fully into the room, then stopped again. Her presence did not push against the space. It settled into it. They did not speak of why she was there. They did not recount paths taken or reasons given. Those details felt unnecessary. What mattered was that she had arrived without urgency and without expectation. Time adjusted itself around them. Later, they sat at opposite ends of a long table. A meal had been prepared quietly, not elaborate, not ceremonial. The clink of utensils sounded louder than it needed to. Each movement was deliberate, careful not to disturb the calm. They ate without conversation, not out of discomfort, but out of shared understanding that silence did not require filling. The beast noticed that her presence changed the room without altering its nature. The castle remained quiet, but the quiet felt inhabited. When she finished, she placed her hands in her lap and waited, not for instruction, just waiting. He nodded once, then returned to his place near the fire. They did not watch one another closely. There was no inspection, no evaluation, only coexistence. As the night deepened, she explored the castle slowly, her footsteps soft on the stone. The beast did not follow, but he did not retreat either. He allowed her space, and in doing so, created trust. She noticed small details, books left open to familiar pages, windows cleaned more often than necessary, chairs angled toward warmth rather than view. This was a place shaped by habit and care, not neglect. When she returned to the great hall, the fire had burned lower, the candles shorter. She sat nearby, close enough to share warmth, far enough to preserve comfort. Night continued its quiet unfolding. No promises were made, no understanding was forced. Two presences occupied the same space, each allowed to remain exactly as they were. And for the first time in a long while, the castle held more than one breath, not overlapping, not competing, just existing together. Days and nights began to lose their clear boundaries, not because time disappeared, but because it stopped announcing itself. Morning arrived quietly, evening followed without resistance. The castle adjusted to this new rhythm without comment. She remained, not as a guest who waited for permission, and not as someone trying to belong. She simply continued to be there, moving through the space as though stillness had always included her. The beast noticed this first, not through conversation, but through absence. There were fewer moments when the rooms felt empty, not crowded, not full, just occupied. They shared the castle without scheduling it. Sometimes they crossed paths in the corridor, offering a nod, nothing more. Sometimes hours passed without seeing one another at all. Neither interpreted this as distance. Silence between them had become familiar, almost generous. She learned his habits without observing him directly. The times he preferred the fire low, the way he stood near windows but rarely opened them, how he chose the same chair each evening without considering the others. He learned hers in the same quiet way, the way she lingered over books without always finishing them, how she paused before entering a room as if asking it permission, the calm she carried, even when uncertainty passed through her. They spoke sometimes, but never to explain themselves. Words arrived only when they were necessary, then rested. There was no attempt to make the other comfortable through effort. Comfort grew instead through allowance. The beast began to understand something he had not known how to name before. She was not afraid of him, not because she did not see him clearly, but because she did not require him to be different. She did not approach him with concern disguised as kindness. She did not soften her voice as if speaking to something fragile. She spoke to him as she would to the night, beware of its depth, respectful of its presence, without attempting to control it. This recognition did not arrive dramatically. It settled slowly, like warmth returning to a place that had never been cold, only unused. The beast did not feel the urge to explain his past. He did not recount wounds or losses. There was no inventory of pain. She did not ask for one. Instead, she noticed what remained, the way he maintained the castle, not for appearance, but for continuity, the care he placed into small, repeatable tasks, the patience in his movements. These were not the signs of someone broken. They were the signs of someone who had learned how to stay. At night, sometimes they sat in the great hall together, not facing one another, but angled toward the fire, sharing warmth rather than attention. The light from the flames softened the space between them. No shadows sharpened, nothing needed resolving. The beast felt a change in himself, but it was not a transformation, it was a release. He no longer felt watched by the presence beside him. He no longer carried the awareness of how he might be perceived. She had already seen him, and remained. That was enough. For the first time in many years, the beast did not brace himself against the future. He did not imagine endings. He did not prepare explanations. He allowed the moment to remain unfinished. The castle responded in its own way. Windows were opened slightly more often. The fire burned a little higher without being encouraged. Rooms once unused felt possible again. No spell lifted, no visible miracle occurred, but the space held differently. Understanding had arrived without announcement, without demand, without cost. And in that understanding, nothing needed to be changed. Morning did not arrive as an event. It arrived as a soft adjustment, a gradual loosening of the night's careful hold. Darkness did not retreat all at once. It stayed where it was, only growing lighter, as though it no longer needed to protect anything. Inside the castle, the air shifted almost imperceptibly. The fire in the hearth had settled into embers, their glow low and steady. Candles had shortened during the night, their wax pooling quietly at the base, as if time itself had melted and rested there. The beast noticed these changes without standing up. His body had learned how to recognize the approach of morning long before his thoughts did. There was a different weight to the silence now, not emptier, just thinner. This was the hour when the night began to hand things back to the world. He moved through the castle slowly, not out of habit alone, but out of care. Each step landed fully. Each movement completed itself before the next began. There was no list of tasks waiting for him, no final check required. The work of the night had already been done. She was awake as well, not alert, not waiting, simply present in the way one is when sleep has loosened its grip but has not yet released it completely. They crossed paths quietly in the corridor. No greeting passed between them, none was needed. Their shared silence no longer felt like an absence of words. It felt complete on its own. From the highest window, the forest began to reveal itself again, not with brightness, but with clarity. Edges sharpened slightly, shadows thinned, colors returned without insistence. The trees did not rush toward the day. They accepted it the same way they had accepted the night. The beast stood there for a long while, watching the slow exchange take place. This moment had once carried tension for him. Morning used to feel like exposure, like a light that asked too many questions. Now it felt different, not comforting, not threatening, simply inevitable and acceptable. She joined him near the window, standing at a distance that felt natural. They did not turn toward one another. They did not need to confirm anything with their eyes. Their presence shared the space without overlapping. He understood something quietly then. Nothing needed to be decided. No promises were required. No future needed outlining. What mattered had already taken place in the night. The silence had been held. The space had been shared. Understanding had arrived without asking either of them to change. The castle remained exactly as it was. Stone did not soften. Walls did not shift. No visible magic unfolded. And yet, the air felt lighter. Not because something had been added, but because something had been released. The beast felt it within himself as well. A familiar steadiness returned, not the solitude he once depended on, but something gentler. He was no longer guarding himself against being seen. He had already been witnessed and left undisturbed. That knowledge rested quietly in him, asking for nothing further. She turned away from the window first, moving deeper into the castle, not leaving, not arriving, simply continuing. He followed at his own pace, not because he needed direction, but because the path was open. Morning entered the castle carefully. Light touched stone and wood without urgency. Nothing resisted it, nothing rushed to meet it. The night completed its work without ceremony. It loosened its hold, then let go entirely. Nothing had been lost, nothing remained unfinished. The world was ready to carry itself again. Inside the castle, everything rested in its place, unchanged, yet no longer heavy. You do not need to stay awake for this part. The story will remain whether you follow it or not. You can allow the light to arrive without watching it. You can let the night go. You can rest now.
Now the story has gently come to a pause. There's nothing you need to remember and nothing you need to understand. From here, only sound remains. Perhaps it is rain, perhaps distant natural sounds far away. These sounds do not require your attention, and they do not ask you to follow. They will simply exist, just like the night. If you are still awake, you can simply listen. If you are already asleep, that's perfectly fine. Now, let the sounds continue. From Luna, wishing you a peaceful night.